What we need to understand, ladies, is that you choose the man that you want to be with. Guys will present themselves as options, but the one who makes the final choice is you. Unfortunately, what a lot of women do is choose the wrong man because they've been taught a set of criteria upon which to judge a male's worthiness as a mate that was flat out wrong. Very poor information has been shared amongst women so that when you're growing up, you don't really know what qualities to look for in a man. So I'm going to tell you. This relates to the group of dudes who run around talking about, well, all women want is thugs. They don't know a good man when they see one. He could be jumping right out of from the road in their face, and they still won't recognize him, and they won't choose us. And I'm a good man. Okay. The thing that's I have a problem with is every single time I've asked guys, well, what makes you good? They come out with some just basic shit. Well, I have a job. Okay, you're an adult. You should have some source, viable source of income so you can support yourself and, buy food and have a roof over your head. That's kind of basic stuff for survival. You should be handling that as an adult person. Or they say, well, I went to school. Okay, everybody should have some kind of fat on their head, whether you went to, university and had a major, or whether you went to a trade school. There's some kind of education that you should have in place so that you aren't an idiot. All right. Well, I don't have no kids. Since you've never been married, you shouldn't have any. Okay, that's how that's supposed to go. So you don't get kudos for doing some shit that you were supposed to do the right way. Well, I have kids, but I take care of them. Okay, what you want, a round of applause and a damn cookie? Because you made some kids and you taking care of them? You're their parent. That's your job. That's what you're supposed to do. Well, I don't have no prison record. Okay, so you had enough sense to stay out of jail like your parents taught you. Okay, what you want from me? I pay my bills. Well, who else is supposed to pay them since you made them? You see what I mean? So the stuff that they come out with is, basic. It's just basic foundational just shit. But what they do is compare themselves in order to build themselves up and make themselves believe that they're special, unique, and better than other dudes is kind of compare themselves to people on the bottom, to like the crackheads and the ex-felons that can't get a job and the ne'er-do-well baby-making types that walk around half drunk and high all the time. They compare themselves to those dudes and say, well, since I'm not like that, that makes me good. No, motherfucker, it doesn't. It just makes your ass basic. And so that's what I want to talk about, ladies, the qualities that you should be looking for over and above the basics. Because, you keep this in mind. A lot of women, and I had a friend like this, she felt like she should be grateful because her husband got up and took his black ass to work every day. I'm like, okay, but wait, how's that helping you? How's that for you? Well, he supports us. He does this. I'm looking at her like, hell, you was about the dumbest thing walking on two legs. That motherfucker had that same job before he ever met your face, met you and saw your face. So nothing he's doing is any different than what he was already doing. His life didn't change one bit. But after they got married, they had a couple of kids. Well, her life completely changed. She was doing daycare runs and, worrying about this and putting food on the table for them and doing all stuff. That motherfucker's life stayed exactly the same, just doing the same basic shit he had been doing all along. And she thought he should get rewarded for that. And see, that's part of the problems, especially in the black community. The standards for manhood and performance is just so freaking low. It's ridiculous. And so, ladies, we got to do something. Now, I'm not saying it's going to be your job to raise men up unless it's your son. You don't have to teach them shit. They can listen to this video. My purpose here is to get you to understand you don't need to be settling for this basic bullshit. They want to come at you with this dumb shit. You need to have some higher standards for them and say, well, okay, well, you got a job, so do I. Big whoop-de-doo. You went to school. Okay, me too. Well, you have a car. I got one right there. See, there it is right there. Everything that they do, you do it too. So what does that do? Does that make you a good man? You see what I mean? It's like, what kind of bullshit is this? So I'm going to rattle off some of the things that you should be expecting from a man, some behaviors and attitudes that you should be, that raise those expectations beyond the bottom line, beyond basic. And you just basically got these guys. I mean, they're complaining that we don't want them. Well, I want them to understand why. And the being basic is just not good enough. It's just not good enough. If you want a woman and you want a quality woman, because you feel like you a quality man, you got to up the ante. You got to come with it. And so having the more of these traits that you can present to a woman, the more likely she is to choose you. So you come in with some basic shit. I mean, that those basic things I was talking about, those basic components of adulthood, does not provide a woman with anything special in a relationship, because you're already doing those things by yourself. And women, you got to stop being, feeling all like you got to appreciate that basic bullshit, because he presents it that way. He's supposed to be like, okay, I mean, what else you got? What are you going to give me that's going to be rewarding to me emotionally, psychologically, and mentally, that would make me feel so bonded to you that I would want to share my life with you? What you got? What you bringing? So these are some of the things that I think, should be looking for, over and above the basic shit that women are taught to look for, which is, a good provider, which, is kind of sad since most women have to work anyway. I mean, he's not really a provider. He's, just somebody in the household working just like you. And okay, so you're taught to look for a man, with some viable employment, who looks halfway decent. Y'all want the man to be slinging some dick, and you looking for, attractive face and body or whatever, and you're looking for a man who's willing to commit to you, marry you. Okay, most women, they know that's the thing that you're taught to look for as a young girl, teenager, whatever. Okay, but there's so much more. Oh my, there's so much more. And unfortunately, most young women don't seem to be being taught to seek out these characteristics. So I'm going to go over a lot of these traits and qualities that I think make a woman happy in a relationship. The kind of man that you should be seeking out, these kind of personality traits and attitudes and values. Okay. You need a man who is mature. You want a man who's a protector. You want a man who's trustworthy. How about supportive? He's like your biggest cheerleader. He got your back in your situations where you trying to, strive and achieve something. He's like your biggest cheerleader, just rooting you on to success. Don't you want somebody with a great personality, so when you bring him around people, he's not just standing in the corner looking stupid? How about somebody who's a really good listener? That's part of communication, not just talking, listening and understanding what you're hearing. How about a guy who's affectionate, affectionate out of bed, so that, you always feel loved and cared for. And it's not just all about when he want to get his dick wet. How about a guy who's strong? I don't necessarily mean physically strong. I mean, I guess that's good too when it comes time to move furniture around and whatnot. But I'm talking about mentally and emotionally. If you have a weak man, you're going to always need to be shoring him up and boosting up his ego and whatnot on every single little thing, because he's so fragile. And it just feels like you have another child when you have a dude like that. It's just, you'll get really drained quickly. How about a guy who is helpful, like around the house? Helpful in your life, fills up your car when he sees you busy, helps with the dishes without you having to ask him, takes the kids to the park to play so you get a few hours of quiet in the house so you can relax and read a book. How about a guy who is patient? It takes time to negotiate things, especially when you first get in a relationship. You want a man who's patient enough to listen and learn and try to know you, while you do the same with him. You don't want a guy who just comes in the door making a bunch of demands. How about a guy who is dependable? That's a key one. He's going to come through. the way that he said he is. That's a lot of women don't trust their man, so they run around doing everything themselves because they can't depend on him. That to me is a waste of time. Why is he even there? You want Some women say they want a man who's God fearing, so I included that. That's not on my personal list, but with respect to the different religious beliefs of my listeners. How about a guy who is humble? He's not always bragging about what he got and what he did and who he knows and all this stuff. He's a humble guy. How about a guy who just does what he knows needs to be done? You don't have to be like looking out for him like he's a fucking kid. He sees some shit, like, some shit that needs to be done, and he handles it. I mean, his eyes work just as well as yours. Why do you have to pick up stuff, and put things away and pick the toys away from the kids, left them on the floor? You see some dishes in the sink. Why don't you wash them? You see the floor needs to be mopped. Why don't you mop it? You see the toilet needs to be cleaned. Get your ass in there and clean it. I mean, you do what needs to be done. And it's like you want to, be an active in the partnership that you have with your woman. How about a guy who is, got a nice body? I mean, he takes himself into the gym. He, doesn't eat nasty food. He takes care of his health. That's important if you have a family, because you want him to be around to see his grandkids. You don't want to have him stroking out at 48, 45 and all that kind of stuff. How about a man who's educated? Even if he's not educated, he's intelligent, which actually I should have put that up at the top, because, if you don't have a brain, you ain't working with a brain, honey. I got no conversation for you. I can't do stupid. Stupid does not work. I think a big one is, how about a man who never lets you forget how much he loves you? He's showing you constantly. He's telling you as well. But, telling you, that's good. But if he's not backing the shit up with some action, that's kind of just dust. That don't really mean too much. Don't get caught up in the words. Look at what the motherfucker does. And he should be showing you how much he loves you every day of the week. How about a guy who is a benefit, not just to your family and his friends, but to the community at large, possibly, the world. He's making a mark. He's something that you're proud of. He's doing over and above the basics. How about a guy who's romantic, who's open-minded, who's, a good communicator, a guy who likes to be committed? That's important to him. He's just not ready. You don't want to keep ripping and running around. He wants you. That warms a woman's heart. And it shouldn't be anything that you have to fight for or argue with him about. It should be something that he does because he can't imagine not having you in his life, close to him and there on a daily basis. That's the kind of man that you want. How about a guy who knows his purpose? He's got one. He's not just drifting through life, playing video games and doing stupid shit. He's got like goals. He's got dreams. He's working to make them come true. He's just like an exciting person to be around because he's just full of life, and you see a future with this man. That is important. How about how he treats women? If I hear the word, or if see anything online, or hear your friends say it, you better keep them under control around me. He calls a woman a bitch, a hoe, a slut, a skank, a thought, skeezer, gold digger, any of that kind of stuff, any of those kind of, he uses any of that kind of language and about women, or he says feminism with a derisive tone of voice. I'm done. It's done, because I'm not going to be trying to prove to you that I'm different from every other woman. I'm just me. And I think a lot of women waste energy on that, kind of trying to change that man's mind and taking emotional abuse from him when they had a sign and a signal early on that he wasn't right. His attitude about women was off. How about a man who's a guy, a man of his word, that goes in with dependable? But it's a little bit different because depending on it, might make you make a request and then you can depend on him to follow through and do the things he says he's going to do. But being a man of his word is a trait that is displayed not just to you, but to other people, to his employers, to his parents, to the neighbor. I mean, he's he says, okay, I'm going to call so and so and set this up for you, well, then he does that for that person. You don't have to remind him. He just got his shit together. That's basically what that is. How about a guy who is concerned about your well-being? He cares if you got a coat. He cares that it's snowing outside or you might be snowed in. He cares that you got sick and comes over and kind of helps take care of you. He cares that um, when your parents dies that you got somebody to comfort you. He's there for you. You're not there alone. You don't have to seek out your girlfriends to provide that kind of support. Your man does it because that's his fucking job. What about a man who's confident? Okay, that's a big one. These low self-esteem having dudes will put you through some major changes. It's they're like so afraid of everything that they a lot of them just won't even try. They stay in this rut because they're fearful of failure, and just as much they're also fearful of success. So rather than risk making a mistake or and feeling embarrassed from failure, they just don't do anything. So you got a dude who like will be exactly the same, 30 years from now, and your disappointment in him will be like planetary because he never did anything, he never grew it, he never changed. What about a guy who's got great character? I mean, under that umbrella, you might say, well, he's kind and he's generous. He's not selfish. He's honest and truthful. And he's not ever abusive. I think those are very important character traits that we should look for because a lot of women get in these situations with dudes and they claim, well, I love him, but I don't trust him. What? Where they do that at? How you love somebody you don't trust them? How can you give somebody your heart and you don't trust that they'll take care of it and cherish it? What? That doesn't even make sense. But I've heard women actually, make those statements, and I found it rather curious. I personally like a guy who has a great sense of humor. I love to laugh. One of my main joys in life is laughing at people. And, if you have a guy who can do that with you, it just makes things so much better. And sometimes, I even laugh at myself. I do that. So it's not like I'm eliminating myself from these humorous antics. But, you just got to have somebody who can see the funny side of situations. Even if it's a bad situation, it's very, it helps ease the stress, takes the tension away. And, I mean, some women that might not be that important, but I think it's a great trait to have, especially if you plan to be with somebody for 40, 50 years. You need to be, they need to be generating some smiles, okay? How about a guy who's focused on growth, who's, respectful? That's key. How about a guy who is financially stable and faithful? Are those things not important? How about family oriented? And we all want a dude that we think is sexy and attractive, right? That might be, part of the basic part, but I don't know. A lot of these little dudes, complaining that nobody want them. I'm like, dude, have you seen yourself in a mirror? You look like a troglodyte. You're not cute. So, but everybody can improve upon themselves. You don't have to think that you all that. I mean, everybody can look a little bit better. And I think another trait that just came to my mind is loyal. Loyalty is a big one. This comes into play a lot when there's some interesting family dynamics. Some women have written to my advice column complaining that their man's female relatives attacked them and said some negative things or called them names or whatever, or criticizing their parenting, whatever. And their man never checked his family. He never was on her side. He just basically complained that he was in the middle and what did she expect him to do, and just abandoned her, or worse yet, would choose somebody else, even somebody outside of his family, to side with against her. I don't give a fuck what the deal is. You better be loyal, and if we have to talk about it when we get home, because you don't understand or you're not sure what the plan should be and we need to figure one out, that expresses loyalty. No matter what, you are on my side, I'm on yours. And you got to know that your mate has your back. So these are just some ideas. I'm sure there are a lot of others um, that could be thought of. But see, these, you notice how much richer the man is if he's got these things going. How much better your relationship could be with the man who's got these things to offer. They need to have more than an education and apartment and a car and some nice clothes and a nice haircut and some blingage and that basic shit. That's just basic shit. That don't mean nothing in the grand scheme of how you're going to feel with this man in a relationship. And I think that's one of the things that these guys who bitch and moan so much don't understand. If a woman is getting these needs met, it won't matter to her that the guy is quote a thug. What matters is how he makes her feel and how he takes care of her. And you guys complaining that you can't get a woman is because you're selfish little jerks. And you hear it, what they complain about all the time. They don't want to do shit. They don't want to take a woman on a date. So if you got that kind of attitude, you're projecting selfishness, you're projecting rudeness, you're being disrespectful. You have eliminated yourself from the dating game. And I think that's what these dudes don't get. And and then you got a funky attitude about women. You think women should get beat up and hit on and cussed at and called names on the street and all these kind of things that these dudes do, and then turn around and complain that no woman wants them. Well, why should she want you? I mean, nothing about you is endearing and warms her heart. Nothing that you do and nothing that you say will make a woman want to be with you. So I think that's those are some of the components that I think we need to really think about, ladies. That bottom of the barrel, um, just not really stellar in any kind of way. I mean, there's nothing about the dude that would make you really want to be with him. I think you got to you got to elevate your standards. You have to expect more from dudes. And most of the time, if a guy likes you, he's going to rise to the occasion. If he decides he doesn't want to rise to the occasion, that just means he didn't like you that much. And that's nothing to be angry about. It's just, it is what it is. Go find somebody else. And on this list of additional traits that are far over and above basic, I think focus on a guy who's respectful, who's dedicated and devoted to you, faithful, whatever you want to call it, and who has the ability. He knows how to treat women. Look for those things first, and then look for this other stuff. The personality and listeners and all. I mean, that's important too. But if he doesn't even know how to treat women, going from the jump, it's not gonna go too far. And that's what most of these little complaining dudes don't know how to do, is treat a woman. They don't know how to treat a lady. But hopefully this is very helpful to all of you. If you have any questions, put them down in the comment section, or any additional traits that you think are important. I'd love to hear them. If you have a suggestion for a topic, use the contact us link and submit your question, or comment, whatever you want to call it. And other than that, I'll be back in a couple of days with another video. This is Deb Cooper from survivingdating.com, signing out.